I'd like now to introduce you to Paul Hughes, CEO of Eco-Friendly and Socially Responsible Programs and Businesses. Paul will facilitate the first panel of the afternoon, Accelerating the Clean Energy Economy. Let's give a round of applause for Mr. Paul Hughes in this panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming back, although you're not back yet. Oh, you're just going to make an announcement. Okay. All right, so this panel is, I think, everybody thinks their panel's the most important. This is a very important panel because this is a group of experts that are in the field, that do business in the green, clean tech, and they are going to tell you what they see for our region, where the industry is going to be, where the business is, what they would do, where to go find the money if you want to start into this area. So we don't have much time. I'm going to go very quickly, have them introduce themselves, listen carefully, great experts in the field here, and then we're going to start answering some questions and hopefully have some time to open it up to you all. All right, so Chad, why don't you start? Take about 30 seconds.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you all. Very much appreciated to be on this panel with such a distinguished group of experts here. My name again is Chad Gozman. I'm the president and CEO of a company called Newing Energy Ventures. We're located right here in Wilmington, Delaware, and we focus on helping Fortune 1000 companies reduce the amount of capital that they require to achieve their energy efficiency and sustainability goals. Work with companies like IBM, Pfizer, McKesson, and we do it all from a pretty small office right on Market Street.
Great. And Adam Zellner from New Jersey.
Great, thank you. I'm Adam Zellner. I run a company called Greener by Design. We do environmental asset management. We represent a lot of small, medium, and large companies in looking at their sustainable packages, their portfolios, and frankly, designing long-term plans for them over time on how to implement everything from renewable energy all the way up to how they deal with their food waste.
Perfect. John Moore from right here in Wilmington, Delaware.
Hi, I'm John Moore with Acorn Energy, and we're a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. We have about a $70 million market cap. We created a company called Converge that employs about 100 people across the Pennsylvania state line. What we do is energy intelligence, making our existing infrastructure smarter.
Tom Noyes, right here from Wilmington.
Yeah, hi. I'm Tom Noyes. I'm chair of something called the Delaware Environmental Summit Organizing Committee. I'm vice chair of Delaware Chapter Sierra Club. I'm an environmental advocate with an MBA. I like to crunch the numbers on where the green energy economy is going.
Thank you, Tom. And Doctor?
My name is Michael Kline. Good afternoon. I'm the director of the University of Delaware Energy Institute. We organize programs of research, teaching, and outreach in all forms of conversion of energy resources into end use.
Okay, so we have about 30 minutes and a lot of ground to cover. Excellent information. I'm going to start at the macro and bring it down to Delaware. So the first question for the panel is, what green, clean sectors do you feel are poised for growth in the U.S. and specifically in Delaware? And anybody can start, and then we'll just rotate from there. You don't have to answer. If you don't want to, you can pass on.
The great thing about energy is everybody's a customer. We know the size of the market. I can tell you right now that Delaware uses about 11 million megawatt hours a year. That's 1.4 billion in sales. And so when we're talking about renewable energy standards and energy efficiency standards, we're talking about 350 million a year in renewable energy that's going to be sold in Delaware by the year 2025.
Wow. I hope everybody got that number. You need to come back to get that. Who would like to speak next on that, Doctor?
Well, what I'd like to just observe is at the national level, we spend, as a country, $1 billion a day. That's, again, billion with a B, on imported oil. And so from an energy or a national security point of view, economy, entrepreneurial, there's $1 billion a day out there that can be captured in various forms of clean energy jobs. The other point that I would make is that the entire energy system today, think of every aspect of it as a coin whose flip side is the environment. So all aspects of energy are organized and are being studied as clean energy. That includes, of course, solar and photovoltaic, but it also includes oil and coal and biomass. The whole range is defined by environmental opportunities.
Thank you, Mike. Adam?
Well, I would look at it a little bit differently, and for the small businesses here, take a look around you. If you look at what's happening right now in the mandates on energy and buildings and things like that, you can begin to see that the market is clearly in the redevelopment of spaces. There are literally hundreds of millions of square feet of space here in Delaware, New Jersey, New York, all along the east corridor. All of it has to be redeveloped, whether it's the lights or the table or the chemicals that they're using to clean this place, whether it is the windows or the types of air condition or chillers. All of that is space that when you look at this country over the next 15 years will have to be rebuilt if we're going to stay competitive. Small businesses have a wonderful opportunity to take advantage of those niches and really pay close attention to two things: the mandates in each of these states, and especially here in Delaware, what are companies going to be forced to do? And of course, take a look at those large companies and their investment plans. If you go online and take some of Mark's advice and take a look at their websites, you'll find they all have a fiduciary responsibility to do something in that sustainable sector. I'm almost guaranteed they don't do it themselves, so please take advantage of it.
This is excellent information for those of you who are in the room right now, telling you exactly where the business is going to be in the future. Isn't that great? I'm getting some good nods down here. It's exactly where you should go. So who wants to take next?
Yeah.
All right, Chad.
At Newing, we look at things really primarily from the CFO's perspective, and energy from a CFO's perspective is about cost, and how do you take out cost, and one of the best ways of doing that is through energy efficiency. And I think energy efficiency as an industry is poised for tremendous growth throughout the country because it makes financial sense, and it's also the cleanest form of fuel. The watt of energy not used is the cleanest form of electricity, obviously. And so I think there is a myriad of jobs and opportunities in the energy efficiency field, from product development all the way through services.
Thank you. John?
So I would also say that you have to look at what's really hot right now. What's really hot right now that's close to Delaware is the Marcellus Shale. And you have a situation where the discovery of unconventional gas and oil sources in the United States is creating a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs. I mean, truck drivers driving water trucks are making $200,000 a year in northern Pennsylvania. And so I think that you should, as a small business person, look at how do you service an industry like that.
Excellent. Nice, diverse group here to bringing information. All right, so we're going to build on that question, go around again, and then we can start again. If you were going to start a business today, this is a very pertinent question, very specific. If you were going to start a business, green, clean business in this economy sector, which ones would you pursue? And of course, you guys represent several businesses. Use yourself as well as your knowledge. So who wants to start? Chad will go.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I looked at this market about 2 years ago when I started my business, and again, I looked at where are we going to be able to create value that does not necessarily depend on government policy and legislative whim. And again, I go to energy efficiency because of the financial payback inherent in the market, and there is tremendous opportunities as a small business to pick out your niche within the industry and exploit that and help companies save money while also achieving their sustainability goals. So everything we're doing when we're helping companies become more energy efficient, we're still measuring the amount of carbon and SOx and NOx and other greenhouse gas emissions and helping that hit their sustainability reports, but doing it in a very profitable way.
So which business would you start?
Energy efficiency.
Energy efficiency. Adam?
Well, I look at the green world in two. You got a green blue collar and a green white collar, and it really is developing that way. If I were looking along that green white collar world, clearly engineering. Every type of engineering is going to be necessary because we are re-engineering everything we're doing. If I'm looking at the other side, I am truly a believer in the building construction product world. Everything that is lighter, everything that is more energy efficient, a higher R value, anything that is less weight to move on a truck is green today. And whether that is lead building, lead construction that folks are doing, or frankly, they just want to be more green, if you look at that space, that is where I'd go. So I would look at the green construction business and the green product business.
Great answer. Great answer. John?
I would look at, so specifically, I think that we've created this new way of drilling for natural gas, hydraulic fracking, And I would look for businesses that would enable the companies to be able to increase their yield and reduce their costs in the field of unconventional gas.
Tom?
I have two quick answers in the immediate future. One is, first of all, congratulations to Dito and University of Delaware and the governor for bringing Bloom Energy to Delaware. And they're going to have 350 construction jobs going into that. They're going to have 600 estimated jobs in their supply chain.
What does Bloom do?
Bloom Energy builds what they call energy servers, which is high-tech fuel cell devices. And
Energy
Delmarva Power is going to be buying 30 megawatts of power from
Is it energy storage?
It's energy production.
Production.
Fuel
Excellent.
cells.
Fuel cell production.
Yes. And
Specifics.
so I would do, they're building a whole new plant. So if you have anything to do with building a modern industrial plant, even if you drive a food cart or provide coffee service, I'd get in touch with Bloom Energy. Second answer is, you talked about the energy efficiency, which is different from conservation. It's using energy more effectively. So the state's legislated target is worth an estimated $200 million a year in energy sales that are going to, if we meet those targets, will replace $200 million a year in energy sales with energy efficiency programs and technologies. If you're anywhere near that, I'd look for ways to do that and find customers.
ESCOs, energy audit companies, anybody with technology in that area?
ESCOs being energy service companies.
Yes.
Yes.
There you go.
Well, if I were to start a company, I would dig deep into my inner soul and find my unique strength and map it onto even the current energy supply system. You have to be unique and strong to have something that people will want to buy, and in the context of energy, I believe that any serious projection of the next 20 years, even perhaps to the end of the century, shows an evolution of the current system into the future. Efficiency is a huge pseudo-resource in the sense that most projections will say that our energy needs in the future will realize only on that, but also natural gas, also coal, also petroleum, biomass, wind, and solar. So wherever your strength maps with, or my strength maps with any of these technologies, I think there is a business to be made.
Just one follow-up.
Oh, no, we have plenty of time. Go ahead.
Yeah. One follow-on thought on the energy efficiency. You can't outsource an energy efficiency project to another country. It has to be done here in this building if you're doing this building. It has to be done here.
That's why I was so excited about this panel, because this is concrete answers, isn't it? What type of jobs? These are the industries. If you want to know about green jobs, you've got to know what the green industries are going to be and what is going to happen in Delaware. So let's broaden it a little bit. Let's look at the future, and I'll bring it back down. But your vision of where regional jobs, and it doesn't have to be solar or wind, but anything in the green tech area. I know to you, Adam, everything's being re-engineered, so it's almost everything. Let's go around one more time and give a vision of what you see is happening in the future and what you hope happens in the future in terms of green jobs, green business. Gives everybody sort of a moment to reflect and come back and expand on their question. Sounds good, Adam. Why don't you go ahead?
You know, I think it's pretty clear you're going to see two things. One, look back to mandates. States, Delaware being a big one, are looking at a lot of mandates. And when I say that, I mean they're looking to change old water plants, old sewer plants, old infrastructure that exists to keep up with mandates. Some of that is your energy industry itself. Some of that is your classic infrastructure. I can't tell you how many condo associations built in 1980 are sitting on water plants that are about to go bad. And so when I look at that and you see the stall in our economy, which actually gives us a moment to rebuild and reflect on what we're doing, I think the next 15 years are going to be about the deep infrastructure, whether that's road, alternative infrastructure for vehicles that includes compressed natural gas or electric, whether that's water or sewers. All of it's going to be part of it. And of course, last but not least, our very aging grid, which my friend John is helping take care of here to the right.
What a segue, John. Go right ahead.
Great. I just want to point out also that Adam worked for Lisa Jackson, who's now the head of the EPA. So this is a very solid guy that's giving us advice here. So I would say that, you know, when you look at the fact that natural gas has fallen from $16 an MCF to about $3.50 an MCF, that there's huge implications of that for our region. Number one, it's going to mean the rebirth of the chemical industry. And Braskem has announced they're going to build a $5 billion plant in Pennsylvania. They've said that they think the cheapest place in the world to make commodity chemicals is Pennsylvania. So we need to leverage off of our strength as a chemical center. Number two, natural gas is a huge input to fertilizer. So the rebirth of our fertilizer industry in this country. So a lot of things are going to happen because of this Marcellus shale.
If you want to look at a different kind of energy opportunity, blue water wind is going to take about 5 or 6 years to get the wind turbines in the water. But blue water wind is not the only project in the pipeline. There are 5 or 6 or more blue water size projects in the pipeline from Delaware on up through to Massachusetts, with more states looking at this. This is an industry without a supply chain. These things are going to have to be assembled somewhere. There's going to be a huge amount of sheet metal fabrication to build these towers, or thick sheet manufacturing. These projects, the ones in the pipeline, are going to cost on the order of maybe $8 billion. That supply chain has to go somewhere, and I know people in Delaware are working hard to capture part of it for here. So I'd look for ways to find where you can plug into that industry.
Thank you. Mike?
I'll just make a quick comment that about the significance of the infrastructure. The energy situation is very large. The United States uses 100 quads per year, and that's an amount of energy that's just incomprehensible. I can't grasp it. It's roughly equivalent to a cubic mile of oil. Now, it's such a large problem that to invest in a unit, say a clean coal unit or even a unit within a refinery, is of order $1 billion right there. So there is an argument to be made that renovation and extension, but not replacement of that infrastructure. The refining infrastructure is worth about $3 trillion, for example, the in-the-ground stainless steel, will be a place that will keep jobs in the regional area. The Baton Rouge, Louisiana refinery that ExxonMobil owns, for example, will not disappear to China, for example. So the use of these kinds of infrastructure for perhaps methane-derived liquids or shale-derived liquids or coal-derived liquids or biomass-derived liquids is likely at some point in the near future, and then all the jobs associated with supporting that will then be created and maintained.
And as we have a refinery here, it's very relevant.
Right down in Delaware City.
Similar to that, NRG is renovating Unit 4 of its Indian River Power Station. That's a $360 million project to upgrade the efficiency and improve environmental controls on
And
it.
a lot of businesses down there that can benefit from that.
Yeah.
Chad, go ahead.
The only thing that I would add is that I definitely think the green economy as a whole has the propensity to create jobs much on the order of magnitude as the tech boom of the 90s did, and it is a matter as an entrepreneur of picking the right places to play, and aging infrastructure is a perfect one because it's a must-have, not a nice-to-have. The one word of warning or caution that I would give is on the mandates. Although the money goes to where the mandates are, mandates can often come and go, and the solar industry is a perfect example of that. In New Jersey, very strong renewable portfolio standard for solar. A lot of companies have started there. A lot of entrepreneurs have started there, just like they did in other areas of the country. In New Jersey, luckily, we continue to see that growth. In other states, we see mandates being cut, or the price of the results of the mandates of the prices of the solar renewable energy certificates, which impact the value of the projects. We're seeing dozens of companies going out of business overnight practically when there's a legislative change. So I'd caution you to do your homework very carefully.
We need a sustained energy policy in this country. I think that's a whole other debate, but we need long-standing. Okay, so let's get to the meat of this. Very important question for everybody out there that's interested in jobs, the new sector. where can entrepreneurs and small business people go to find financial assistance for green, clean products? What do you guys know about how to go about finding that money in particularly tough times for this? Chad, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I can say it in 2 words. It's Barb DeHaven. I don't know where she is. She's here somewhere, but
Barb DeHaven.
Barb has been extremely helpful. She's a great connector of people in the state.
Over there.
Thank you,
Barb's
Barb.
hiding now. She's there.
That she really has been a great connector of people in the state for me. I've gone through the mayor's office as well in Wilmington. I've spoken with the leadership at First Aid Innovation. An organization that I would highly recommend to entrepreneurs out there is the Small Business Administration's SCORE program, retired executives wanting to help entrepreneurs with a particular problem they're trying to solve. These are very good, sophisticated executives that are willing to spend time with you at no cost, and I would highly recommend that as well. Even Senator Kuhn's office has been helpful at times for some point issues that I had. So I guess the moral of the story is there is a plethora of resources out there in the state, and you just have to ask. And you know, I always say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and it just doesn't hurt to ask for help or for advice from these resources.
And it just occurred to me that that was a lot of names in sequence, but these guys will be available just after the panel if you want to pick their brains on such thing to get specific name places. Adam.
You know, I'll let others talk about some of the more traditional, because I agree there are state programs, SBA programs. There are foundation centers. I would encourage people to look out there. There's actually a foundation center library that foundation centers will help companies, everything from advice to how to raise money. But there is also what is rapidly becoming sort of the non-traditional, which is this concept of monetizing. And part of that is to begin to look out. We talked a little bit about ESCOs a second ago. We all know about PPA, power purchase agreements. It goes beyond that. As small businesses, if you're able to look to large companies that are contracting for services, those contracts, and many banks for the first time are beginning to understand this world. As these big companies are beginning to implement large portfolios, banks are able to wrap around, provided you can show that you've got a contract or at least some interest from a company. You'd be very surprised in the banking world how fast they're getting that if the company you're doing business with is a strong credit company. It doesn't need to be you, it just needs to be the folks you're working with.
So using that contract as collateral for loans. Absolutely. And Adam will be around shortly. I think you probably have to go pretty quickly, but pick his brain. He knows how to do it because his company is great. John.
Well, Acorn is a public company, so we raise capital from institutions. But even though we have 4 companies around the world, and I think the best source of capital ever is if you can get your customers to fund your research and development or to leverage off of other non-dilutive sources.
Great businessman's answer.
Just to follow up, that was Barbara Delhaven from Dido. Just to
follow up,
yeah.
she's saying, tell them about this one, and there's a lot of information, but it's USDA, Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Program. I have a fact sheet. Come find me afterwards. We got a lot of ground to cover. Is that good enough, Barb? Okay. It's USDA.
And I also see Jeff Flynn from the Wilmington Economic Development Office hiding in the corner there. He's raising his hand, and he's a great guy to work with, too.
Raise your hand again, Jeff. Thank you. That's where the money is. Oh, he works for a university. That's what happens with the funding there. Okay, next question. We heard a lot of talk about competing on let's go global again, competing with China, India, the Far East, Korea. Can the U.S., and specifically this area, we got New Jersey and Delaware covered pretty much in this panel, can we compete with these countries? And how do we do it, if we can? That's a big one. I don't know who wants to jump on that.
Well, Acorn competes globally, so I can tell you that the biggest challenge when you're thinking about energy is that there is no capital-light business model in the energy business at scale. So, what I would suggest is that number one, your business be something helping energy companies, because they are very good customers. They're just very hard to sign up, but once you've got them for life. And the second thing is that you approach the market where India and China is looking at economies of scale. that America does what we do best, which is economies of connection. So our company Converge, for example, has load switches in 5 million homes throughout the United States that aggregates demand and shapes it to fit supply. So it's a $125 load switch that makes a big impact on the environment.
Tom?
Well, the nice thing about the energy business is you need the energy here. You can't buy energy directly from India or China. And so energy has to be generated here. And whether it's renewable energy that gets plugged into the grid or energy efficiency projects that takes the load off the grid and reduces your energy bill, these are projects that have to be built or undertaken right here. If you're insulating a roof and putting on a reflective coating to reduce the solar energy that heats up your building, you can't outsource that. You need boots on the roof, so to speak.
Mike?
I guess I would look at this from two perspectives. One is just generically across the board ideas and inventions and brain power that cross-cuts all aspects of energy that can be local or global. If you look at it from the other point of view, from the idea of the conversion of resources into end-use energy, yes, there are many aspects that will make local issues predominant. We have many years of shale gas. We have many years of coal right here as an American resource. We tend to think of the Middle East, but we import even more hydrocarbon from Canada. So there are local issues, and there are in the evolving energy system to the future, there will be infrastructures that we will build and replace here that can't be moved to some of the other countries. So I think in both of those aspects, just the intellectual capital as well as the capital, the true capital that's in the ground, there will be business here.
Excellent. Ted?
I would just add that I don't think it needs to be a zero-sum game like other industries, U.S. and this industry in particular, in Delaware. There's very strong R&D and innovation, intellectual capital, as Mike was saying, and China and India can still provide the lower cost resources, but at the end of the day, a lot of the innovation is happening here and can continue to happen here. But to hit on one point of what it's going to take, as you said, Paul, I think what's different about the United States right now than it is in China and India, but specifically is government mandates for reaching certain goals in terms of energy efficiency or carbon reductions. In India, for instance, they are announcing an energy efficiency program that's going to be about a $14 billion program of tradable certificates for energy efficiency. Yeah, it's massive, and we have one state, Connecticut, that has a similar program that is a fraction of that size, but it works, and it obviates the need for new construction of new power plants where in Lower Fairfield County there's no space, there's no transmission lines to get that done, which still talks to the aging infrastructure and fixing that, but that's how we can compete more if our policies change a little bit more too.
Adam?
I'll just kind of conclude this question on the good news. To John's comment, yeah, we're not going to compete with China and India on economies of scale because, well, frankly, if you all want to earn $1 an hour, raise your hand, and we can do that. But that's not where we're going to be. I truly believe, and I just came back from China, 40% of the industrial folks in China today, their equipment is failing because the water's so polluted, it's rusting the internals. 40%. And so when you look at the challenges of India and China and all of them beginning to wake up with these policies, frankly, I think we actually woke up before them. We don't always get around as quick as they do because their mandates are stronger, but I truly believe when we look at some of these technologies, and whether it's big macro technologies like carbon sequestration or even micro technologies, controls, cleanup, all sorts of things, but we actually stand a very good chance of being able to export solutions because the one thing about those places is their populations are much larger and the problems they face are much larger because of that.
Right. In the interest of time and the fact that they shared my mic, he's messing with me. All right, I'm going to open this up to questions. We have a little bit of time, and you guys have been great to sit here and not go out in the hallway. And who has questions for the panel? Specifics. Question.
Hold on.
Oh, good. Didn't even know we had a mic.
How about that?
Hi. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My question is addressing food production, okay? I know energy is big business, and renovation, you're exactly right. However, I'm in the area of aquaponics, okay, which is not big in Delaware, and I think the market is vast for that here. Did anybody address anything along those lines? So if you could speak to that.
Who wants to field that?
I'll start that one. You know, that's interesting. We represent a lot of companies that are getting into that space, and it runs a full gambit from what has increasingly become the more socially aware, naturally grown, to farmers who are looking at hydroponics and things like that, mostly because of runoff issues, nitrate issues, phosphorus issues into large water bodies. As you know, this state faces a lot of that, as others do up and down the Northeast Corridor. And even in how we process food, food waste to energy, I would tell you that food waste across the country will be the first thing mandated out of landfills. And I got a pretty good idea.
Did everybody hear that?
Food waste out of landfills. Everywhere else in Europe, that food waste is recycled and turned into energy. But I will also tell you that to a market, food production, and for those who heard Dana speak earlier today about his business and the cake production, and food is getting more expensive as a result of energy getting more expensive. As that continues to happen, innovative growing techniques, urban agriculture, hydroponics will continue to get a niche. The key is finding those places, those stores, those high-end markets that are truly looking for that. That goes back to that monetizing before, because as you know, there are markets that really, really push for that. And when you look at the pricing difference, some of these markets, the Whole Foods kind of model, their pricing can be upwards of 20% higher in an economy that frankly is not that good, where they're still doing well.
Great answer. Come see me afterwards. I'm also in that field. All right, I don't want to waste any time, though. Anybody else want to touch that? We'll go for another question. Okay, thank you, Adam. In the back.
I have a question. We've talked a bit about mandates and subsidies that are associated with them that are supporting a number of the initiatives in alternative energy, all the way from ethanol to wind farms, et cetera. Can you make some comments about, well, when we do that, we subsidize that industry, but it's at the cost to either the taxpayers or the rest of the people in the state who have to either pay higher electricity costs or something. So there's nothing for free. When we're driving in this area, we're paying in this area and losing jobs over here. Can you talk a little bit about the process by which we can bring balance to those decisions around mandates and subsidies? And if there were no mandates and subsidies, what would that do to the alternative energy growth trend?
Second part of that question is probably a little easier. Tom, you want to start with that?
Yeah, as an environmentalist, I've got some strong opinions on this, and there's lots of research that shows that fossil fuels get far more federal subsidies than renewable energy. But we'll move on from that. In Delaware, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative cost residential customers about 38 cents a month. That's 0.285%. Renewable Portfolio Standard is similar. When Blue Water Wind comes online, the Public Service Commission estimates that the net cost, added cost to customers will be 0.5%. So I think we're looking at a minimal cost to customers, energy customers, to bring these new technologies online. So in return, we're building some new industries here in Delaware, and as entrepreneurs, that's, I think, what we're here to discuss today. Now, in terms of solar renewable energy credits, unlike New Jersey, where there's a concern about whether there's a bust coming because of adjustments to the price of renewable energy credits, in Delaware, I'm on the Renewable Energy Task Force, and we're working hard to price those so that there's a steady growth in that market, not a boom and bust up and down
go next and address
approach
that.
which could put people out of business. So I wouldn't look for many hundreds of new solar jobs next year, but gradually over the next 10 years, a few more hundred jobs.
Adam, talk about what happened in New Jersey, because this answers a lot of the questions about what you're doing just happened.
Sure. New Jersey just released a new energy master plan, and I think there was a lot of fear of just that the market would go through some significant changes. The new plan itself did come out, and it turns out that the governor did back off a lot of those reported changes. I think a lot of that has to do with the investment that the pharmaceuticals and some of our larger industries made in daytime peak power. They invested a lot into solar arrays and others. And let me use that to answer your question, because I agree with you. There's always a push and pull. Some people call that policy, some people call it subsidy, some people call it investment strategy. It really depends. At the end of the day, what I think you have to look at to determine whether or not these policies are worthwhile is if the investment itself is helping to reduce costs, reduce expenses on another side that's fostering investment, there is a net-net. There is a push and pull. You're creating jobs by subsidizing one side. If you're investing in these types of renewables or large-scale renewables that are not helping to either reduce energy costs, reduce daytime peak, allow manufacturers, and in our country, manufacturing is almost a lost art, allow folks to reduce that daytime energy load so that they can compete with a China and an India, because I got to tell you, when you lose manufacturing, you're losing manufacturing because of labor, sure, but you're losing it because of energy costs in a large kind of way. And so the question about investment strategy is, what are the trickle downs that come from it? I do agree that you need to quantify those more carefully, because I think everybody's got the tugging heart issue, and we all want to do the right thing, and there's some security issues that go with that too. At the end of the day, it's got to be about the multiplier effect, and I can tell you in New Jersey, just from some of the large corporations we represent, there are 5 large data centers in our state that were prepared to leave over the last 2 years because, frankly, power in Arizona was cheaper. Power in Mexico was cheaper. The subsidy, and it was a subsidy given to the solar industry to allow them to do those solar arrays, reduce their daytime cost from 14 cents down to 3. That 3-cent electricity is comparable to any place in the world, and now they are able for the next 10 years to keep a commitment to expand 875 manufacturing jobs. And in New Jersey, I don't think we've had a manufacturing job in a while. So there are gives and takes, but it all comes down to simple economics. What are the quantitatives that go into it? What comes out of it? What is ultimately the multiplier effect to where you were going?
And that's a great answer. We have time for one more quick question. Man in the back.
Can you hear me? Okay. Being in the insurance business myself, the one thing I don't think has been mentioned is risk. First of all, we're looking at a brave new world. Renewable energy, this is going to grow businesses for Delaware. We're looking at, venture capitalists, whatever, investing money for this. In other words, everybody has to think about managing risk, business risk, environmental risk, financial risk. What is going to assure, say, a lender or an investor of money that, number one, something's not going to happen to his money, or something's not going to happen to either the business or the individual running the business? And I'm kind of curious as to if anybody can speak to that aspect.
Chad? Go ahead.
One thing to your point about risk from a lender's perspective or from an investor's perspective, and it relates to this gentleman's question about the subsidies and renewable portfolio standards, is one thing that having a clear energy master plan that shows in a distance what the prices, or at least the caps of the prices of solar renewable energy certificates, for instance, are going to be worth, provides the transparency that investors require to understand whether or not this investment makes sense. And the implications of even policy delays are profound on small business. And speaking from someone that just went through this, we were very close to closing a deal on several large solar utility-scale solar arrays in New Jersey, and that all went away for a time being until Governor Christie put out this draft of the Energy Master Plan. Luckily, it's coming racing back because, as Adam said, a lot of the cuts weren't made and people feeling more comfortable, but it's all about risk. It's the financial risk and how do you mitigate that. Secondly, insurance companies are providing performance guarantees and insurance policies for not only the business continuity of the solar array or the wind farm, but also the output of the array. And so we're also purchasing those policies to also, again, it's all about attracting that capital. 5 megawatt array is a $20 million investment with combined debt and equity, and it only goes up from there for utility scale, so we have to have those policies in place.
Anybody else? Because we got to wrap it up. Quick answer to that. John, you want to speak to anybody? We're good. Round of applause for this. We were so lucky to have these across the board, different businessmen from the grid to working with solar and energy. So thank you very much, and please pick their brains on the way out.
Thank you.
Good, good, really good. God, that was, I hope we got that on tape.